Okay, so today I'm doing what will hopefully be part of the series. I'm not sure yet because I haven't started a second one, but I plan on it being a series, and that is a series of fairies with different flowers. And for this piece, the flower featured is called Love in a Mist or Love in the Mist, depending on what website you read it from, to be honest. I'm going through the line art quite fast because I find it pretty boring to watch, and when I'm editing it and having to do a voiceover for it, I don't want to speak about it for ages. It's just I'm tracing my sketch, which took forever because I'm really bad at proportion, and I decided to do a whole body because I'm an idiot. So yeah, I think I'm kind of happy with the proportion considering how bad I am normally, although I'd be annoyed if it wasn't that good because I spent a long time on it. Now, I did something very different that I've never done before, and that is hair without line art. I did do some faint pencil lines underneath the hair, just to kind of sketch out what shape it'd be, but I didn't give it any black outlines. And I think it could have turned out better, but considering this was my first time trying that, I don't think it went too bad. Okay, so for the details on her dress, I'm using a kind of champagne-y colour. I stick to a lot of neutrals for her clothing because, I don't know, I just didn't want it to stand out too much because I think the flowers were the main part of the piece, even though I've spent so long with this girl. She really isn't the main part. I very quickly realised that a lot of the background was going to be white, so I didn't want the top half of her dress to be white, but I still wanted it to be pale. So I used like a really pale ivory colour to colour that in, and then use C1 to shade it. I've got a really light, like, purpley pink here to do the dress, because again, I didn't want it to be bright, I didn't want too much attention to be on it, but I also didn't want it to blend in with the flowers below that are purple, that will be purpley blue. So I thought the more pinkier colour would go better, but I still wanted to stay within floral tones so it kind of looked like it was made out of petals. I use red lipstick, and eventually I give her red nail polish just to add a little bit more interest back into the girl, because again, she is made up of very neutral colours. So now I'm doing the skin, and I normally spend far too long on the skin and put far too much effort into the skin, not enough into anything else. So today I kind of calmed down with the skin shading and kind of focused on everything else a bit more, making sure that looked good too. So the skin isn't as complicated as it normally is, and it doesn't have as much shadow and highlight and contrast and all that in it, but I think it has enough. And I've been using like the BBs to shade recently underneath the skin tones, and I think it looks really good. I think it definitely looks better than shading with darker skin tones or greys, because obviously the BVs are the opposite on the colour wheel, so they make a browny colour, which is obviously a more natural colour of a shadow for skin tones than, say, a darker skin tone. Now, we just had a massive skip in the recording because that part was really boring to watch, to be honest, and it was really difficult to record. It was like, because I'm having to really concentrate on what I'm drawing, and I kept knocking the camera, so I just moved it out of the way. But I just sketched out a load of flowers. I did the middle bits first, then inked that, then sketched the petals, then inked that, and then sketched the wiggly bits, inked that, sketched the buds, inked that, sketched some more wiggly bits, and inked those. So it was a really long, tedious process, and it looked really boring, so that's why I cropped it out. So now I'm just colouring in the green parts of all the flowers. I did the inner bits with kind of darker ones, again to bring the focus more onto the actual flowers than the background, because the wiggly bits really aren't that important. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep calling them wiggly bits because I have no idea what the proper name for them is. But colouring in those wiggly bits was a nightmare. I really didn't think it through, and I made them really thin, and it was so annoying to colour in. I really needed like a bullet nib. But I do have some markers with bullet nibs, but they are not in the colour I want because I only have like 5 of them because they're like 99p from the works, and they only seem to have like 6 colours. So again, another skip because I started colouring the flower in the wrong blue. I did massive tests to see which blue I wanted to use and then picked up the wrong one and didn't realise. So you just see me colouring over that part and then doing all the other flowers. And I thought this would be more fun after doing really thin, tedious little wiggly bits, but no, it was boring too. But yeah, the flowers, they're kind of, in some photos they look more blue, in some photos they look more purple, and in other photos you really just can't tell what colour they are. So I decided to go for a blue base that kind of looks slightly purpley anyway, and then use purples for details, but like BVs, so they're still kind of blue toned purples. And I use those for details and like the little lines on the petals and stuff. And then I use a slightly lighter purple just to purplify some areas, because I thought it looked just a bit too blue. Okay, next I'm doing the very background, and the way I filled that in is I've done lots and lots and lots and lots of dots of different green shades. So with the background, I knew that up to the flower level, I wanted the background to be almost solid green. And I didn't want it just to be one colour, so that's why I'm doing the layering of dots technique that I've done before, but I don't think I've done it in any of my YouTube videos yet. But I really like how this technique looks. I think it's a kind of quick way to fill in an area and keep it interesting without just having like one shade of green in the background. But I wanted to make it so that the green was like fading into nothing, so once I've got this solid bit, I'm now adding extra dots above it. And I obviously keep adding extra dots until I thought it looked faded out enough. I also have some purple bits in there, so it looks like there's still some flowers in the background and little buds and flowers in the distance and such. And I accidentally got a green dot on her leg. So I had to thicken the outline to cover up the green, and then because I knew I was going to go around the fairy and white jelly roll anyway, I could just cover up the part where the outline was really thick. So again, it skipped because me sketching looks rubbish because I take ages, but I just drew on the wings and I'm adding little pink bits and blue bits and purple bits to make them look a bit prettier. I've got some green flecks behind it that I've diffused with the colourless blender. And now I'm adding my favourite part, which is the glitter, because it just looks gorgeous. I mean, look at that. It's so pretty. And then now I'm just going around with a jelly roll and correcting any lines that were too thick at the same time. So yeah, I think I really like this piece. I definitely would like to do more for the series. I don't know whether I will actually get around to doing that, but I do have lots of ideas, so hopefully I do. But yeah, thanks for watching.